Okay, so I'm gonna say something that sounds crazy. JRPGs tell better stories than most movies. And I know that sounds insane at first, but these 10 games prove it. Some are masterpieces, some are completely broken, some shouldn't even work, but they all have something movies don't. Let's get into it.
All right, we're gonna start at number 1, and that's gotta be Suikoden 2. This game does something so unique. It uses 3 different combat systems, but not just for sake of variety, they all serve a story purpose. You've got the normal party combat for adventuring, duels for personal one-on-one confrontations, and strategic war battles for the large-scale conflict. Each system basically serves a narrative purpose. You're not just fighting, you're building an army. You're making personal stands. You're waging war. The 108 Stars of Destiny system is both mechanical and narrative simultaneously. Every character you recruit is a representation of the growing military power, but it also represents real relationships that you've built. Losing a character isn't just a mechanical setback, it's a personal failure. You recruited them. You built that bond. Now they're gone. The story is about a childhood friendship falling apart, about 2 friends ending up on opposite sides of a war, about the cost of ideology and loyalty. And the game forces you to make impossible choices about who to fight, who to spare, who to recruit. Those choices aren't narrative branches. They're mechanical decisions with story consequences. A movie shows you characters making choices. Games make you make those choices and live with them. That's the difference. Movies show. Games let you act. And that makes all the difference.
Number 2, Trails in the Sky. Trails in the Sky released in 2004 with a simple philosophy. Take your time. No world-ending threat in Act 1, no cosmic revelation, no major escalation. Just a kingdom, characters, NPCs with names and homes and routines. The game spends 50+ hours building a world where every NPC has dialogue that changes after every story beat, where every conversation matters, where you care about places and people before anything dramatic happens. Then, the sequels escalate to continental wars and geopolitical conflict. But because you spent all that time in Librel, you care about that escalation. A movie cannot do this. Movies need immediate stakes, immediate conflict. They can't spend an hour on small-town conversations because audiences would leave. But Trails in the Sky understands that patience is the story. By making you invest in small moments, it makes large moments matter. Combat system, tactical turn-based with orbment customization, never rushes you either. The game has time, uses that time, makes every moment count. That's a philosophy that only games can execute, because games have time, movies don't.
Xenogears was too dark and complicated for Final Fantasy, so it became its own thing. The scope is staggering. Millennia-spanning narrative, reincarnation cycles, god experiments, philosophy, psychology, theology. The game is trying to answer why we exist, and halfway through, it breaks. The development team ran out of time and money. The second disc becomes text boxes, narration, static cutscenes. The game literally stops being a game halfway through. But here's the thing, it doesn't matter. Because the ambition was so profound, the structural failure becomes part of the experience. You're not playing a broken game, you're reading an unfinished novel by a visionary author. The game asks questions about consciousness and identity and whether free will exists. And those questions matter more than the broken presentation. That's something a movie could never do. A movie can't be broken and still work. The form doesn't allow it. But Xenogears proves that in games, profound thematic depth can override structural failure. The idea becomes more important than the execution. A movie has to execute. It has to maintain form and structure. Xenogears breaks that form completely, and somehow it still works because what it was trying to say was important enough that's unique to games. And it's why Xenogears still resonates 25 years later.
Persona 4 is about a murder mystery, but it's actually about something deeper. What happens when people refuse to accept themselves? Every major story beat is a party member entering the TV world and confronting their shadow, the twisted version of who they are that they refuse to acknowledge. Kanji confronts repressed sexuality. Naoko confronts gender identity. Rise confronts the pressure to be perfect. Yosuke confronts his own prejudice. The game doesn't treat these as side drama. They're the entire story. The murder mystery is just the vehicle. And here's why this works as a game. Each character's dungeon isn't a random cave. It's a manifestation of their internal world. Conquering it isn't winning a battle. It's character development. The social link system, building bonds with characters, directly powers your ability to fuse and create stronger personas. The game is literally saying, your relationships make you stronger. Your acceptance of others' truths helps you grow. That's not metaphorical. That's mechanical. A movie could show characters accepting themselves. It could show them growing, but it couldn't make that growth functional. It couldn't make acceptance literally give you new powers. In Persona 4, self-acceptance isn't just emotional, it's mechanical, it's strategic, it matters to your success. That integration of theme and mechanics is something only games can do, and Persona 4 does it perfectly.
Xenoblade Chronicles understands something about its own scale. The overwhelming size of the world matters to the story. You're walking across the bodies of dead titans. The Bionis and Mechonis, gods, are the literal landscape. You're so small that you can barely comprehend it. And the story is about a character named Shulk, gaining the ability to see the future, to see fate, to see destiny. But the game teaches you what that knowledge actually means. Seeing the future doesn't mean controlling it. It means accepting it. The combat system, real-time action with the vision mechanic is that lesson. You see attacks coming and you adapt. You don't prevent them, you respond to them. The story is cosmic, massive, gods fighting. Universes at stake, but it's not that scale that makes the story work. It's that the game uses that scale to explore a personal theme. What does it mean to have knowledge you can't act on? Xenoblade could have been a smaller story about a town threatened by invasion. Instead, it made it universal, cosmic, because that scale reinforces the theme. A movie can show you massive scale, it can show you gods and titans, but it can't make you feel that scale for 80+ hours. It can't make you walk across a dead god's body for that long and have it change your understanding of yourself. That time, that accumulated experience across 80 hours is what makes Xenoblade's story transcendent.
Final Fantasy X is about what it means to let go, not as a plot point, as the entire framework of the game. Titus is an outsider. He doesn't understand this world. Most games would make him the hero who fixes things. FFX makes him the character who has to learn to accept things he can't fix. The story slowly reveals that Yuna, the woman he loves, is walking toward her own death. The pilgrimage she's on ends with sacrifice, but the game doesn't tell you this directly. It builds it hour after hour, conversation after conversation. You're slowly understanding what's happening alongside Titus. And here's why this only works as a game. A movie would show you the destination and then rush through the journey. FFX spends 60 hours on the journey because the journey is the story. Every conversation with Yuna, every town you visit, every battle, every moment is building toward one understanding that love sometimes means letting someone go. The combat system, predictable, turn-based, tactical, serves that. You're not winning through skill or surprise. You're winning through preparation and acceptance. You know what's coming and you prepare for it. That's the story reflected in mechanics. The game is teaching you to accept fate, to plan for inevitability, to move forward despite knowing the outcome. A movie could show you an ending where a character dies and the other has to accept it, but it could never make you feel that acceptance the way FFX does, where you've spent 60 hours planning and preparing for something you know is coming but can't prevent. That's the power of game time. Not to show a story, to make you live it long enough that understanding becomes part of you.
Fire Emblem Three Houses understands something about war that almost no other game explores. There are no villains in a real conflict, only people who believe different things. You spend the first 30 hours in a monastery teaching 3 groups of students. They're distinct. They have different worldviews, different goals. Then the game jumps 5 years forward. Civil war breaks out, and depending on which house you chose, you fight against the other 2. But here's the crucial part. All 3 sides are right. Edelgard wants to tear down a corrupt system of nobility and church control. She's right. The system is corrupt. People suffer under it. But Dmitri wants to preserve the church's spiritual authority and the kingdom's stability. He's right too. Radical change causes suffering. Some people need continuity. And Claude wants to broker peace between factions without total war. He's also right. The game forces you to choose between 3 valid arguments. A movie cannot do this. A movie needs a protagonist and antagonists. It needs good guys and bad guys. But Fire Emblem has you spend 30 hours with all 3 factions. You know these people. You taught them. You built relationships with them. Then the game says, choose one. Fight the others. Watch the people you care about die on the opposite side. That's not about entertainment. That's about understanding. By the end, you don't just know what war is intellectually, you've lived it. You've made impossible choices. You've killed people you cared about because you believed in something they didn't. That's something only a game with this much time and player agency can do. Number 8. Dragon Quest XI. Sincerity as a radical act. Dragon Quest XI tells a completely straightforward story. A hero has to stop an evil force from destroying the world. That sounds boring, but in 2017, when cynicism was the default in storytelling, Dragon Quest XI released a game that just believed in its own premise. No deconstruction, no irony, no winking at the camera about how corny hero stories are, just a sincere belief that good can triumph over evil, and that the journey matters. That sincerity is what makes the story work. The game trusts you to care about a straightforward narrative about heroes and adventure. The skill panel, the progression system, reinforces that. You're building characters that get stronger. You're making choices that matter. The game is never punishing you for trying, it's rewarding you for effort. That might sound simple, but it's the opposite of modern game design, which often makes you feel like you're failing or struggling. Dragon Quest XI makes you feel powerful, makes you feel like the hero. And that feeling is the story, because the story is about becoming worthy of being a hero, not through dramatic twists or psychological trauma, through effort, through growing stronger, through learning to trust your companions. A movie shows you a hero. Dragon Quest XI makes you become one. Over 100 hours, through hundreds of small choices, you become the person this story needs you to be. That's why it's better than a movie. Movies show heroism, games can make you live it.
Ni no Kuni understands something about grief that most stories miss. It's not a thing you process and move on from, it's a place you enter. A kid's mother dies. He discovers a magical world that exists parallel to our own. And that world is broken in ways that directly mirror his internal state. The game doesn't make that metaphorical. It makes it literal. The world is his grief. Broken landscapes, corrupted characters, everything twisted by loss. And the story is about entering that world and healing it, not by forgetting his mother, by learning to carry her memory and still live. A movie could show a kid sad about his mom and then him going on an adventure. The adventure would distract from the grief. Ni no Kuni does the opposite. The adventure is the grief processing. Every quest isn't just save this person. It's help this person accept a hard truth about themselves, because that's what grief is. It's learning to accept things you can't change. The mechanics matter here too. Familiars represent
internal parts of the kid. Parts of himself he's learned to integrate. The combat isn't just win battles, it's about combining different aspects of yourself to move forward. That's something a movie literally cannot do. A movie can show character growth, it can show a kid learning to accept loss, but it can't make you actively participate in that acceptance across 40 hours of gameplay. The story only works because you're the one making the choices. You're the one deciding to help people face their pain. You're actively choosing healing instead of escape. A movie would make that happen to the character. Ni no Kuni makes it happen through the player.
Tales of Arise. What it means when two people can't touch. Tales of Arise is about something specific. What happens when love requires distance. Alpha and Xian are the core. He can't feel pain. She causes pain to anyone who touches her. Literally, they cannot be together in any physical way. That's not just a plot device. That's the entire story. Everything serves that one idea. The game spends 40 hours exploring what that means. Not just romantically, politically, emotionally. Two people from worlds at war, learning to trust, but unable to actually connect. Now here's why this works as a game and not a movie. You're living through the frustration. You're in combat with them side by side, but separated. You're watching cutscenes where they're reaching for each other and can't. A movie would show that in maybe 3 scenes. Look how sad they are. Then move on. Tales of Arise has you experience that separation across 60+ hours. Every dungeon you crawl, every battle, every conversation. You're feeling the weight of it because you're living in it. The combat is fast and fluid and satisfying. Boost strikes, letting you link your party together, but that mechanic serves the story. You're connecting your characters because the characters themselves are separated. That's the difference. The game isn't just telling you about impossible love. It's making you feel the distance in every system. That's why it's better than a movie. A movie can show love. A game can make you live it.
These 10 games understand something that movies don't. Time is not a limitation. Time is the story. By spending 60, 80, 100+ hours with you, they can build understanding that movies can't match. They can integrate theme and mechanics so completely that you don't just understand the story, you live it. That's why they're better than most movies. Not because they have bigger budgets or better graphics, because they understand what only games can do. They give you time, and in that time, they change how you think about things. That's the power of the medium.